Hey, what's going on guys? My name is Rampage and welcome to my benchmark for Homefront, the Revolution on PC. So just before I get into the video, I do want to mention the specs that matter, and I'll overlay my full spec list on the screen here, but the specs that matter are an i5-2500K clocked at 4.2 GHz, an Asus GTX 980 OC edition, which is further OC'd, Asus GTX 770 OC edition, which is dedicated to physics, and that's how I've set it up as of right now. I'll be doing a test between having that card as a dedicated physics card and switching it off and testing whether the performance is any different. Also have 16 gigs of Kingston HyperX DDR3 RAM and a Corsair RM850 power supply. So, obviously by my voice you could probably tell that I'm a little bit sick still, so if I cough or if I go a bit weird during this, you know why. But basically, alright, let's go to these settings here. So I'm going to be playing this completely maxed out for the first bit, and then I'm going to try and find a decent match, right? A decent match, by that I mean I want to try and see how low I need to go in order to get the game to function correctly, or have my ideal settings, right? So we're playing with 1080p, full screen, SMAA medium 2x, that's as far as it goes. Temporal anti-aliasing. Texture resolution very high, that's as high as it goes. VSync disabled for this test. System spec. I found that even if I do set this to very high, it doesn't really do anything. If I go to advanced graphics, you'll see that everything is set to very high, except for post-processing. Every time I go to this menu, it switches from very high to custom. I'm not 100% sure what the hell is happening here, so if I do that, and then go, no, it's switched everything, see, like, it just switched everything to high. Everything was, I'm pretty sure everything was on very high, so let's try that again. So if I do this, get everything like this. I'm not going to use super sampling because that setting is just ridiculous and nobody should use it unless your computer is just ridiculously powerful. But if I go back, I'm not too sure how this occurs, but sometimes if I go back to the advanced settings or if I load the game up again, it'll always tell me that post-processing is set to high or custom or just changes for some reason. I'm not 100% sure why it does that. But anyway, let's start the game. Story. So this is the very first section of the game that you actually get to play, but I have noticed that whilst playing, it has these weird performance issues where, I don't know if I'd call them issues right out the gate, but it does have performance dips, and that's why I have the frame time up there in the monitoring thing there. Hopefully you can see it. If you can't, well, that's a bit of a problem. Oh, I don't know if you saw that, but I just saw the T-pose there. See if I can skip this. No, I can't. All right. Another resistance cell. Fuck, I picked a bad time to get shot. Okay. So, as you can see, the game is running over 60 frames per second, completely maxed out. Now, my overclock on my GTX 980 is set to 1401 megahertz, whereas the default is, I think, 1288 or something like that. No, 1278 is the default clock. I also have the memory speed overclocked as well. So I'm pretty certain that the overclock is doing a little bit, but once we get out of this section, as you can see there, as soon as the guy gave me a phone, the frame rate drops for no apparent reason. Okay, so if I spin around, yep, so you can see that the frame time is a little bit too high there. Okay, so V, access smartphone, this just tells you basically how to use it. Don't know why V is back, but anyway, just after this bit here is the benchmark sort of bit. Basically this is all I played, and just, you saw that there, where the game just stuttered for no reason whatsoever.
Just another day for you and me in paradise.
Okay, so basically in this benchmark, I go to here, stop and look around, look this way, because that shadow and all of these effects and stuff are playing. Now the frame rate is set to, I don't know, on the right it says 50, but it was like 41, 47 for a while there. At 46 with 20 millisecond response times, and that AI is going absolutely mental. But the funny thing is that my computer is the recommended for this game. The recommended CPU is an i5 2500K, which is exactly what I have. They also recommend you have 8 gigs of RAM. I have 16. As you can see there, it's only using 6 gigs. And I also have, I think the recommended GPU was something like a 760 or 770 or something like that. I have a 980, dude. Why is it dropping this much? And why are you stating that recommended specs are so low when the game actually requires more than that? It requires more than a GTX 980. Now, I say that because I think the far right percentage in GPU 1 is the power draw, so it's using 94%. The first percentage is the GPU usage, so it's only using or utilizing about 75% of my GPU right now. Whereas the second GPU is only about 9%. Now, I would think that because this game does look like it has a lot of physics elements and stuff like that, or particle effects and stuff, that it would be utilizing that GPU better, but apparently not. Like, maybe it's not using physics at all. Maybe it's using Havoc physics, and in that case, it probably won't end up using the GPU at all anyway. But yeah, so basically in the benchmark, I just walk up and down here just to see what the frame rate's going to be like. And, you know, I just can't understand how a game like this, that has had so much, you know, issues in relation to how the game was developed, it switched hands multiple times, has performance like this. And I say that because my CPU is not getting pinned at 99%, where it was in Assassin's Creed Unity. So that's where I had a CPU bottleneck, where my CPU wasn't powerful enough to play and record that game. I could record with NVIDIA Shadow Play, but I couldn't record with anything else, otherwise my computer would just lag so hard. Now, I don't know whether that came down to optimization, whether that came down to just, you know, poor game design. But I fear the same thing is happening here, where they recommend a specific spec, but yet they don't really pull through in the sense that the performance isn't really up to par, right? And that is the only problem that I have thus far with the game. Obviously, I haven't played much of it, but I gave Homefront a lot more credit than it deserved, because I appreciated the fact that we weren't killing the Taliban, or we weren't killing, you know, Russians and that. I appreciated a different storyline and a different enemy. That is why I liked that game. Now, to play this game, I fear that the same thing is occurring, where in the original Homefront game, we had this like long-term horrible performance, even if you had a decent graphics card. At the time, I believe I had a 570, and it just ran like garbage. But, you know, after a few patches, after the developers, you know, took time to fix the game, it ran fine. I got a GTX 770, it ran perfectly fine after that. And yeah, the game runs perfectly. This game, not so much. And you'll notice that the game is only barely even using 1.8 gigabytes of VRAM on a 4 gig graphics card. Now, could that be the reason? Could it have streaming problems? I don't know. But that millisecond response time is not good at all. If it goes above 15, 16 milliseconds, then it's a bit too much of a delay, and that sharp increase in milliseconds, or that sharp change from something like 15 to 21 causes slight stutter. As you can see here, it's from 17. Look over here, it's 20, 11. You know, if it's dropping that dramatically, it will cause a player, including myself, to experience something really weird, and that is micro stutter. I don't know whether that's the actual cause, but I'm starting to realize it's got something to do with the GPU spiking or the millisecond response times spiking, and that's what I'm going with at the moment. But other than that, you know, the performance in this area alone is not up to par. Like, obviously, I'm getting okay performance here, but it's just in specific areas, right? Or if I look at specific directions, so if I look this way, it's 74. If I walk backwards, you can see that because of this fire or because of that light source, I am losing that extra, like, 5 FPS. Right? It went from 72 all the way down to 55 just by walking backwards facing the exact same direction. So, I don't know. Something really needs to happen with this game. They really do need a little bit more time optimizing it, or just NVIDIA needs to fix it in an update or something like that. Okay, so I'm back. This time I've disabled my second GPU, which is the GTX 770, and switched the physics calculations, I suppose, from the GPU to the CPU. Now, I just wanted to show you that after restarting the game, everything is still maxed out and whatnot. Going to advanced settings, post-processing has changed to custom again. And that's what I was mentioning at the start of the video, which is, it's just really annoying how it does that. So if I go change that to very high, oh, it didn't change everything that time. Oh, yes I did when I go back in. See, like, the options here aren't really flushed out. They're not, I don't know, it just doesn't feel like they've tested the options very well. And the post-processing setting, if I set this to very high after restarting the game, it changes every other setting. So I'm not too sure what is happening there. But yeah, let's get into it.
This is the place. We should be safe here for now, but the Norks will tear the district apart looking for us. We've got to make contact with another resistance cell. Fuck, I picked a bad time to get shot.
Alright.
Remember these?
Come
This
on.
phone is our
Hurry
town
up.
safety, if you can find a network transceiver and hack into it. That'll connect us to the hidden resistance signal and show us the closest safe house. Here, take it. We're working blind here.
Yeah, as soon as doing that, it goes from like 82% to like 75-ish. It's really weird. Anyway, obviously I'll run through the same benchmark, do the same sort of test that I was doing before. Yeah, don't really care, go away. Alright. Same stutter.
I don't know. Nothing good.
So we'll stay here for a sec, look that way. Yeah, it's not as bad as before, but it is, like, it was dropping down to about 44 frames per second. Which it hasn't been doing that, but the millisecond response time is about 20 milliseconds, which is pretty high. If I stand up that way now. I just want to elaborate that this is supposed to be the recommended specs for this game. Even running it, you know, very high settings, I realistically, according to the developer, should be running this game fine. Now, could this have something to do with the game being a CryEngine game? Possibly, because CryEngine is one of those weird engines where it does sort of take a lot of hardware, like a lot of decent hardware in order to run properly. Here we go, we have the same idea happening here, where if I go towards this flame and this light source, it drops from about 70, what was it, 76, 78, 79 to about 66 ish. Yeah. So 65, 66, yeah, and then if I go here, for some reason it drops to 62, so it loses about 4 frames. Going from here. Oh, no, not doing it now. Okay, that's weird. Anyway. So yeah, the game overall has weird performance, but let's go and see what I can change in order to get the performance to be subpar. So if I disable all forms of anti-aliasing, let's see what that does. Okay, so it's about 59 frames per second. Let's see if we can keep this 60 or 59 frames per second constant. Nope, it still drops down to 56 frames per second. And the reason why I'm mentioning those slight frame dips is because, 52, is because I can feel when the stutters happen. And when the stutters happen, that's when the frame rate drops. Yeah, so it's about 52-ish still. Alright, let's turn some of these down. I might just turn I can't turn texture resolution down in-game because I have to restart the game, but I'll turn everything else down to medium. See what the performance is like, and if it doesn't change here, I'm going to disable motion blur, but if it doesn't change here, then yeah, if I don't get a constant above 60 frames per second with medium settings, then there's something clearly wrong, yeah. Like, overall, it shouldn't be dropping past 65-ish frames per second, but it is. It's a little bit more stable, but it looks really, really weird in terms of, you know, anti-aliasing, jagged edges and stuff like that. But the game itself should not be stuttering. That's what I'm talking about. It shouldn't be stuttering whatsoever. It shouldn't have performance problems. It went through several development studios. What is happening with this game? You know, it's been out for a few days now. Yet no developer has said anything about performance, at least on PC, but I'm hearing that it does run a bit weird on PS4 as well. So hopefully, at some point, we may see a patch that will optimize performance. But until then, I would, if you're looking to buy Homefront: The Revolution, I would, you know, put off that purchase because it does run a little bit weird, and I don't know whether you're going to enjoy this experience, because honestly, if a game stutters, I'm not going to enjoy it at all. My name is Rampage. Please don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe, and let me know what your thoughts are on Homefront: The Revolution. Now, we'll be uploading a review and first impressions, you know, later in the week, so stay tuned for that. But anyway, see you guys next time. Peace out.